AV Shop Talk, Episode 6.
Podcasting from Boston, Massachusetts and Los Angeles, California, this is AV Shop Talk. Covering the latest audiovisual trends and emerging technologies, this is where the AV pros come to talk shop. With your hosts, Nate Schneider and Jason Griffin.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of AV Shop Talk. Glad to have you with us. Fresh off of a great week out at Infocomm. We got Nate back with us. Nate, how are you?
I'm doing well. I survived the flights, the red eyes, the layovers. I made it back in one piece.
That's great. I know it was your first year out there at the show. What did you think?
Yeah, it is. It's overwhelming, really. So being out there for the first time, being relatively new to the industry, maybe one of the younger folks out there, there's a lot to take in. There's just so much. But I do have to give a shout out to Chris Netto and Tim Albright and the guys over at AV Nation, because they hooked me up with an exhibitor badge. So I was actually able to sneak out onto the floor, like, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday, before anything was, open to anybody else. So I got like a little, backstage pass, if you will, to kind of see the behind the scenes of, some of the crates coming in and some of the people just working their butts off behind the scenes to pull the show off. So that was kind of a cool perspective that probably not too many people get to see unless, you're an exhibitor or a manufacturer or, running a booth. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I guess it pays to be a member of the Red Band crew, huh?
Yeah, the Red Band blogging benefits definitely paid off there. So that was really cool.
Awesome. Were there particular products or product categories that you kind of came away from the show feeling excited about, or maybe even disappointed by?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a ton of 4K, but the challenge is deciphering what type of 4K it is, because all 4K is not created equal, right? So there's different frame rates, there's different bit depths, there's different color spaces, and everyone's kind of touting 4K. And there's some really good 4K displays out there, but the interfaces and the interconnects, they're out there, but it's kind of deciphering what's what. The only thing I could say that really knocked my socks off was probably a product I'll never spec and I'll never use, but at Christie's booth, they had this thing called the Interactive Design Studio that used projector mapping. And if you look at the AV Shop Talk Vine account, you will see, some little 6-second videos of like a car. I think it's one of the new Corvettes, actually. I can't remember exactly what type of car it was, but anyway, it's this 3D interactive design studio, and they've got multiple projectors, throwing light at this physical model, and they're changing the color of the brake pads and the pinstripes, and the background is changing from a desert background to a fall New England background to like an ocean background. So they're doing some really, really cool stuff, and they're controlling it all with a touch panel. So that was cool, but I have no idea how it's really relevant to me per se. But I
had the same thought. Yeah, I saw the Vine video that you posted, and for people who may not be familiar, just little 6-second video clips, and they can also see them on our Twitter handle. They were all posted there at AV Shop Talk, and it's amazing what you can capture in 6 seconds, though, because that product was a perfect example. Like, if you would have just sent me a couple photos of it, I would have really had no idea what it was about. I saw the video. It looked really interesting. I'm sure there's a ton of really powerful technology that's driving that product, but I had the same reaction as you. I was trying to think of, well, what would you spec that for? Like, what could that be used for? And as a residential guy, I have no idea, but it sounds like you kind of, even in your background, sort of had the same idea. But I'm sure there were other people who saw it and instantly had sort of applications and uses in mind.
Yeah, well, one of the things I learned is that these Canadian manufacturers have kind of a little bit of a hand up on some of the U.S. manufacturers in that they're able to completely write off their research and development costs. So it's basically for a company like
really?
Christie that's based out of Canada, they can actually just write off all the research and development as a tax write-off. And so that's
interesting.
Yeah, that was something I really wasn't aware of until I was talking with one of my colleagues. And I was like, well, that makes sense. Some of these Canadian companies are coming out with this crazy stuff that's, kind of blowing your mind. And not quite sure how it's going to make money, but they don't really need to, do they?
But it looks good at trade shows.
Yeah, it definitely caught the eye. I'm trying to think what else. So companies like Pixip, Econo, and Blue Jeans, those companies were really interesting to talk to kind of see how the cloud is, impacting things in the video conferencing world. That was all very interesting. A lot of activity in that section of the show floor. With video conferencing technology. Of course, Beam was there. I bumped into a robot that I thought was a Beam robot, but it ended up not being a Beam robot. It was, who was that company? It was, I can't remember the name of it now. Again, just look at the Vine account. You'll see it there. But it was more of like a gimmick to kind of get people into the booth and some, ladies talking into a microphone somewhere, and it's, converting her voice into a robot voice. It's not really like a teleconferencing robot.
Right.
So I was a little disappointed when it turned around and was like, here, take a business card. It's like, oh, you got me. I'm a sucker.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you had a good time out there at the show. Speaking of different vendors and manufacturers who are out there, our guest on today's show is Hal Truax of Peerless-AV, formerly known as Peerless Industries. And it was a great conversation with Hal. They're Peerless. You had the same reaction as me, I think, in that for a lot of us, when we hear the name Peerless, we think of mounts. We think of display mounts and TV mounts, and really they're doing a whole lot more than that now. And it was cool to hear about some of the products that they were showing, and it was kind of like a virtual tour of the booth for especially cool for those of us who weren't able to stop by or weren't able to go to the show.
Yeah, it was great to hear a little bit from Hal and how he got into the industry and do kind of like a virtual booth crawl about all the different products, wireless, HD, wireless audio, signage, 4K, mounting solution. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. So got a good episode here. Hope you'll stick around and check out this edition of AV Shop Talk.
AV Shop Talk.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Right now, we are speaking with Hal Truax of Peerless-AV, and thank you so much for joining us, Hal.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about what Peerless-AV had to offer at Infocomm. Maybe do a little bit of a virtual booth tour about what the hot products were this year from your booth. I was at Infocomm. Jason, unfortunately, couldn't make it out this year. But I think this will be good for him to kind of see, a big picture about what was going on with Peerless. How you doing over there, Jason?
I'm doing great, yeah. And I think for people like me, it'll be excellent to sort of get a recap. We were watching Infocomm from afar, and there's a lot of information that comes across Twitter and, of course, on the blogs and things of that nature. But it's nice to get Hal on. I'm excited to hear what they were showing at Infocomm this year and get a little bit of insight into what Peerless is doing.
Yeah, so Hal, you are the managing director of retail and pro AV sales. Can you give us and our audience some background about, kind of how you got to your position now and just maybe a brief history about how you got into the pro AV industry?
Sure, absolutely. So I ended up in the custom installation side of the business, which was really in its infancy in 1981. I did that in conjunction with installations of the large C-band satellite dishes that were just, legalized by the FCC about that time. And we ended up developing and starting an installation company back in 81. And we installed for about, 85% of the dealer base in San Diego County, which is where I lived. And that's kind of how I got. It was a school of hard knocks, so I was very passionate about it. From there, I noticed that some of our installers were doing some installations for some big box retail stores, and I was thinking about the model, not to, kind of cut off my nose to spite my face, but I was thinking about the model, and I thought it was curious that these big box retailers that had such great showrooms and really nice lines, high-end audio and video lines, that they would trust their sale to a third-party installer as the last touch with their customer. So I created a model and took it to this big box store and said, really, you should own the customer from start to finish. The last touch with the customer should be somebody that's employed by your company. So I started that entity with this West Coast big box retailer, and then I did that for quite a while until that business got absorbed by another large entity, and their model changed. At that time, I got involved in manufacturing, and I've been in manufacturing ever since 2000. I've been involved in this space in the audio video solutions and the mounting space for a long, long time, and I've recently joined Peerless in December of 2012.
Okay, great. Thanks for giving us a little bit of insight as to where you're coming from. It's one of the first questions when I meet somebody in the industry. I like to just kind of hear their story and where they came from, and everybody's got a different story. Either they were roadies and they were touring with a band, and then they found themselves working in Pro AV, or a story like yourself where you kind of came up through the ranks with a multitude of different companies, and now you're landed for a manufacturer. You landed working with a manufacturer. Now, did the name Peerless-AV, did that change recently? Or did it used to be just called Peerless Mounts or Peerless, or has it always been Peerless-AV?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Peerless-AV is a little bit less than 3 years old. It's by name. And so the reason that Peerless changed its name, it used to be Peerless Industries, and most people in the industry just referred to it as Peerless, and it was known, as this mounting company. So about 3 years ago, the name got changed to Peerless-AV because we developed a department called Emerging Technologies that was developing some wireless audio-video solutions that allowed connectivity without pulling wires and some tough retrofit applications, and also outdoor displays. They were formerly Seal Technologies, and the beginning of this year we acquired them. So we have a bunch of different solutions that are exactly that, AV, in addition to the mounting solutions. And a lot of these work hand in hand. Our outdoor displays need to be mounted. That was a logical fit. And a lot of times people that are mounting displays in residences or commercial installations, sometimes getting the signal there is tough. And so there's some wireless connectivity products that we've developed.
Okay, so that's good to know, because historically I've only been in the industry since about 2007, so I'm still fairly new to the game. But that's what I know Peerless as, kind of like a mounting solution. And I was actually a little surprised to see all these other devices, and when I was looking through the website, it's more than just mounts. You guys have a number of different product lines that you're offering now. So that, I take it, that happened in the last 3 years or so?
Yeah, for the most part. We've been developing the wireless solutions for about 3 years. We have a kiosk division that's really taken off. That ties in really with digital signage and wayfinding. And since we do all of our manufacturing in the Chicagoland area in Aurora, Illinois, we have the ability to bend metal and shape metal there in a large facility. So we're manufacturing kiosks now to house our displays outdoors, and then a multitude of any of the other displays indoors for wayfinding and information gathering.
Very good. So I think it was interesting that you guys changed your name, because like Nate, I've traditionally thought of Peerless as a mounting company, and again, I was surprised and happy to see that you guys were venturing into other product lines. So you talked about some of the wireless distribution systems that you guys are working on. How is that business going for you? And I'm particularly interested in the HD Flow, the wireless HDMI distribution. It seems like that would be a tricky product to pull off. How has that been going?
Well, actually, that's our best-selling wireless product. It's the most robust AV solution that we have. It takes 5 different types of inputs, and you can plug in up to 4 components and it outputs HDMI at the other end. So it acts kind of like a switcher, and it's very robust. It works, we touted at 131 feet, and it's very, very, kind of bulletproof for wireless. And in general, wireless is a pretty tough sell. I can talk to you about wireless, and a lot of people have maybe had a less than satisfactory experience with wireless in the past. So we encourage people that are our dealers to take one as a demo unit, hook it up in their shop or some challenging environment, and see how it works. And invariably, they want to buy the demo, and then they begin stocking it or promoting it to their dealers or to their end user customers. So that's been the most successful AV wireless product that we've launched. Piggybacking on that, one of the things that we introduced at Infocomm was a wireless audio system that's got a little bit more range, more than 140 feet. And so we're trying to grow that wireless category currently.
Yeah, and wireless is one of those things that everybody talks about, and clients are always asking, isn't this all going wireless soon? And I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of integrators, myself included, are very hesitant to even talk about wireless HDMI because it just seems like the requirements for bandwidth would be so high that you'd kind of be asking for trouble. But it sounds like it's a pretty robust solution. Is it, and I know you're not an engineer, but to your knowledge, is it very susceptible? Does the performance vary based on your RF environment? Does this operate on the 2.4 gigahertz frequency, or how susceptible is this to different factors like that?
Well, those are great questions. So one of the issues is the environment that you're installing a wireless solution into, because it is susceptible to any of the noise floor there in the installation. Also, construction, if there's a lot of concrete in the walls or metal and so forth, those can affect the performance. But this works on 802.11n, and it's about 5 gigs. And the cool thing is, it's its own network. So it doesn't piggyback on somebody else's Wi-Fi and bog their network down, which a lot of times these wireless devices do. This operates independently, and we've had very, very good success with this piece. We have a secondary piece that is just wireless HDMI. It's HDMI in. You can plug 2 sources in, and you can switch on the receiver level. It's got a little bit less range. It's somewhere between 60 and 100 feet. That's definitely just a residential piece. A lot of people use it for gaming. But the Pro AV community is really, really embracing HD flow. The other thing to note, it's got the capability to multicast, meaning that you can take one transmitter and hook up to 4 receivers in an environment and get it to work at multiple locations. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, so HD Flow, so that's the name of the product you guys just launched now, or that's been around for how long?
It's been around about 3 years. It was our first venture into the AV category. The initial offering was called HDS 100. We've evolved that a little bit to have a little bit more sophisticated video chip and wireless capabilities, and then allowed it to operate cooler, and that's called HDS 200. And that's what the current iteration is.
Okay, now does that support HDMI 2.0? And is there any latency associated with that, or?
So there is. So I'm not an engineer, but there's like a, point, I don't know, 0.003 second latency. So many milliseconds latency on this because. It's just because of the way that it operates, so there is a little bit of latency. It's not exactly real time,
right?
But it does support all the current HDMI formats.
Okay, that's good to know. So it sounds like it would be great for a digital signage application, or presentation, or applications of that nature.
Yeah, we use it all around our office and all the boardrooms for presentations and so forth, because it's easy. You plug your laptop into the transmitter and it just gets there, and it's convenient, and it is used in digital signage. We use it a lot in house of worship applications.
Oh, no kidding.
And and education. Yeah, we've got a couple of product enhancements. We've got some carts, mobile carts that have the receivers built into the mount, and so you can roll that cart around, and if you have transmitters, you can make it mobile wireless audio video, and that's very popular. And then we've got a couple of mounts, mounting solutions that go on the wall that have the wireless receivers built into it.
Okay, great. Now, this sounds like a good virtual booth tour for anyone that maybe didn't make it out to Infocomm or they happened to miss your booth. I know I was out there, but I didn't get a chance to actually see too much of the Peerless technology. It was my first Infocomm, and I was just kind of taking it all in, and it's just overwhelming how much bright, shiny things there are on that show floor. So definitely next year I'll have to pay you guys a visit if I make it out to Orlando.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That's great. So this year, so it had to be overwhelming and kind of just there's a lot to see. This year, Infocomm, to me, it seemed a lot busier than it was in the previous year. And then Infocomm kind of reiterated that with attendance. Attendance was up quite a bit, so that ratified what I thought was happening. So if you want to talk about our booth right now, that's all right. So
definitely.
Our booth was set up like a baseball diamond, right? And we had bases, first base, second base, third base, home plate, and each one of those sections showcased a different technology, if you will. The first base side had some ceiling mounts, a couple of projector mounts, and some of the mounts that we feature for our hospitality division, because we've got a lot of business in that vertical. And then also one of the product lines we have is dedicated for real true Pro AV and CDS style installers that we don't allow to be on the internet, so it helps them protect their margins. So that's kind of what was at first base. And as you went around, we had an offering of kiosks. We had many different kiosks there. Some were touch-enabled, some were not. Some were indoors, some were outdoors. One of the cool things that I think that we did at the show, we showcased the world's first 4K outdoor kiosk. So that was pretty cool, and that got a lot of interest.
Could you explain that a little bit? The 4K kiosk.
Absolutely.
I don't think I fully understand. I think when I heard about it, I don't think I understood exactly what it was. So is this a kiosk that is it's like a mount and a display all in one, or is it you just buy the mount or you just buy part of it? How does that work?
So in our kiosk division, we offer many different kind of options because people have different needs. But basically, what it is, it's a metal housing, if you will, and it comes either in a portrait orientation or a landscape orientation. And we build them for all different types of screens, all the way down to 24-inch, all the way up to 84-inch. Oh, that's up to 90-inch currently. Mm-hmm. And depending on the panel, usually we have a website, basically Peerless, kiosk web builder, kiosk builder, and you go in and you would put down what you want on that, and it would spit out a quote. And this 4K unit was a portrait unit that we had incorporated these Peltier heating and cooling modules that allowed you to put this screen outdoors and in a weatherproof environment and see this really ultra high definition content. And that's great for the detail that you need sometimes in wayfinding. And nobody had really done that yet, so that was one of the things that we focused on launching at Infocomm to generate a lot of interest, and it surely did. The detail on those 4K displays is amazing.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We talk a lot about 4K on this show, and it's a very exciting technology, and I think that's a great application for it. Speaking of outdoor products, I know you guys are now into outdoor displays. You probably don't know this about me, but I operate in the residential side of the business. And really, as far as outdoor TVs go, for us, there's not a whole lot of options. Sunbright comes to mind, and that's really what we're using. Is your outdoor TV geared sort of exclusively at the commercial market, or would you say that it's a good fit in the residential market as well? And in any event, what differentiates it from existing outdoor TV offerings?
Okay, so initially, all of our focus was on the commercial side. We've developed an IP68 rated display. And what IP68 means is IP is ingress protection. 68 is the highest level you can get. That means the TV is submersible in water. And we do that because there's no fans or no filters. It doesn't exchange air. So it's a proprietary heating and cooling system, which is different than everybody else, including, Sunbright. They have fans and filters and so forth. So we focused on the commercial market for a long time. We have direct sunlight readable displays because we have this optical bonding that we do that enhances contrast and prevents the display from isotropic blackouts, even in harsh conditions. So that was our calling card for, it used to be Seal Technologies, as I said, now it's Peerless-AV. But recently, in 2014, because I lose track of time, 2014, we introduced a 47-inch TV that's a consumer-grade TV, meaning it's got an IP65 rating, which is still greater than anybody else has. It doesn't have any filters to replace, but it addresses the price point issue because our commercial displays were really difficult to implement in the CDMA market. They were great for Pro AV, for, we use them at all the theme parks, and we use them at some of the raceways. But the consumer sets we just recently launched, and we've had a lot of success. In fact, we can't really keep those in stock. And the 47-inch unit, the way it differs from the competition, it doesn't have filters to replace. There's no maintenance. It's got a higher ingress protection rating, meaning you can power wash it. You don't have to be concerned about water getting in from the top or bottom or the back. We've got safety glass in front of the panel, and it's an aluminum frame construction, meaning it won't warp or fade in sunlight. So, and it's right there at the same price point or similar price point, that Sunbright has had. So that's new for us, and we're just getting that word out. And the traction is we're getting more demand than we can build nearly. So it's a very, very good problem to have.
Good. And can you give us do you have an MSRP on that unit?
Yeah, it's $29.99. It's 47-inch.
Oh, wow.
It's a 2-year warranty. It's a high temp panel. It's phenomenal, and we're selling hundreds and hundreds of them. It's great.
Cool.
Awesome. So I think you've given us a pretty good picture about what it was like there, and you touched on the baseball theme. And even though I didn't really get a chance to get into the technology while I was there at Infocomm, at least at the Peerless-AV booth, I definitely saw your presence. I saw the baseball jerseys, I saw the baseball theme from afar. So I thought that was really smart. And one of the topics, one of the things I noticed about being at Infocomm for the first time was the whole booth babe thing. And there's this whole hashtag no more booth babes going around on Twitter, and there's a lot of women in AV that are kind of speaking up against it. And there's some guys that are joining the ranks too. Leonard Suskin, Mark Coxon. These are some guys that are also kind of voicing their opinions about booth staffing and everything. And I just thought that was a really creative way to attract attention and create buzz without actually kind of resorting to some sort of hiring some sort of modeling agency to try to entice people over to the booth or men over to the booth. Could you maybe talk about what you guys were going for, and did you think it worked, or
Sure.
What would you do differently, or?
Well, so we know that it's a predominantly male-oriented industry, and so I understand what they're trying to do. We tried to get people into our booth. Number one, by blasting out all the compelling stuff that we have there, but we had a promotion. We had that baseball theme, and we were giving away tickets and a travel package to the first World Series game. So that's kind of how we were getting people in our booth. But so I've been doing trade shows for a long, long time, for I don't know, tens of years, right? Maybe 30 years in total. So most of the time during the shows, from a manufacturer standpoint, I'm really busy in the booth, and it's really hard to get out and walk the booth. But I got a little bit of a chance to do that this time. And since the time is limited on the floor, I'm really, really focused on seeing the newest products and seeing the technology that's all abuzz. And I'm not really, focusing. In fact, I've never focused on this issue at the way the other booths are staffed. Our philosophy is that we staff the booth with people, product managers and sales associates that really understand our products and can speak to the people that come in. Because you're spending the money, you're coming to the trade show, you really want to have some takeaways. So that's our philosophy. Mm-hmm. And so my editorial on this, I guess, is regardless of who is staffing the booth, whether it's a male or female or whether it's an employee or somebody that's hired out, I think overall it's kind of detrimental to our industry if that individual doesn't really know the products and can't speak to the products. That's my spin on it. I don't have a big opinion on hiring talent or not. As long as they're well versed on the product, they can speak to people that come in the booth. That's really the most important thing. So people get a good value, and manufacturers really can convey their story. So I think that's primary. And then one other side note about women in our industry, it is. If you look at the show, it's mostly men, but there's a couple of organizations that have emerged that give a voice to women and allow networking and allow them to really shine in the industry, and it's becoming more and more prominent. And one of those organizations, Women in CE, it's a networking event, and it adds credibility, I think, to this. And it just, that's my spin. I think there's a couple others that are starting to surface that are allowing women to have a voice in the industry, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, and that's pretty much my take. I mean, seeing it for the first time, it just seemed kind of awkward. There was some people that, some women that weren't dressed appropriately and were clearly hired just to try to scan badges, and it just seemed kind of awkward and out of place, at least from my perspective. And then hearing other input from women in the industry and other men in the industry that it's actually detrimental to women and it's being a hindrance. I guess at the end of the day, to me, I'm in the same boat as you. I just want to see the technology, and I want to talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about. And let's dress professionally, and let's hire people that deserve to be there and deserve to have those types of conversations. That's kind of my take on it.
Yep, I'm with you. And let's give people that come to the shows relevant and accurate information, so they have some good takeaways to come back to the company.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think your guys, both of your takes on it are right on. And like Nate mentioned, I wasn't at Infocomm this year, but I've been to trade shows before, and I've seen that practice. And I guess, frankly, I've just never given it much thought because, like you guys, I'm really focused on the technology, and these trade shows just go by so quickly, and you go there and you have so much in mind that you want to get done and people to network with and products to see that, it hasn't been that much of a distraction to me, but I do see people's point as far as it being a hindrance and a bit of a distraction. But I guess speaking of a distraction, we kind of at second base got a little distracted there and by the booth babes, and want to let you get back to talking about your booth and some more of the products that you guys were showcasing at Infocomm.
Sure. So we went around and we got into this kiosk area. And that was very, very popular. And as we went back to third base, we focused on our digital signage mounts, and that's probably our biggest vertical. Digital signage, video walls, quick serve restaurants. That whole segment is our fastest growing and our best vertical that we're engaged in right now. So we introduced and showcased a couple of quick release video wall mounts and digital signage mounts that have kind of you depress on the panel and it releases, so it comes out. It's easier, in a video wall, for instance, you have all these TVs and displays that are co-located, and you can't get your fingers in to pull a mount out to get service, and so you're able to do this by pressing in, and the mount gently comes out. And so we have those in our standard offering, which is a very popular mount. We introduced an ADA-compliant pop-out video wall mount that, when used with an ultra-thin display on the wall, is less than 4 inches deep, which is an ADA requirement. And in the past, people have had to recess those walls to make that ADA compliant. So that was pretty exciting. We've got some large format displays that work up to 95, or mounts that work up to 95 inches, that also have a quick pop-out, quick release feature. So that was kind of what was at the digital signage video wall portion of it. In the middle of the booth, we had something called the DMV, which is a digital menu board that, for like quick serve restaurants, all the places you would go and order a hamburger or a donut or so forth. A lot of those places are still using static signage, and from the there's a big push to change that to digital signage in restaurants, whether that be menu boards or outside quick serve restaurants. Part of the reason for that is, there's legislation where they have to include caloric content on these different foods, and if they change a mayonnaise or change a condiment or add a new sandwich, that's a huge, laborious task to update that stuff. So if they go digital signage, they can change that content on the fly, and they can keep a consistent content throughout the franchisees. And so it's becoming more and more prevalent. We're embracing it full steam ahead, and we're focusing with our outdoor displays that minimize maintenance, no fans, no filters. So we had that in the middle of the booth, and then as we went back around, we had a 2,000 nit high-bright outdoor display that was optically bonded. That's the first one of its kind in the industry. So that generated a lot of buzz. And then kind of at the end of the tour, we had a 3x3 video wall cart that was kind of neat, that you can take a video wall mobile and you can move it around, and you don't have to have a wall if you don't have a structural facility to build that wall. We have a cart that'll facilitate that. We also had a video teleconferencing cart that was brand new for us. A couple of screens side by side and a camera, and it was very sleek. It would hold all the hardware you need for that type of setup. And then the last place that we had product was all of our emerging technologies, the HD Flow, a WHDI piece, so it's in wireless HDMI. We also have something called Pico Broadcaster, and that's kind of cool. That's like a mini TV station. It broadcasts MPEG-2 over the air to any open channel in your geographic region. So there's an app you can put on your phone called a White Space app, and you can, wherever you're at, you hit this thing, and it tells you what channels are open and allocated by the FCC that don't have any interference on them in your geographical area. You set this Pico Broadcaster up with some software to broadcast on those channels, and you can broadcast to, there's an unlimited amount of displays. It can be 1,000 displays in a 700-foot radius. So it's really cool for like merchandising big retail stores or furniture stores, or video walls where you can't get the wires to them. And so we had that product, and then the last thing we introduced that wireless audio piece that is eight mono zones, 4 stereo zones, wireless audio up to 140 feet away. So that's kind of the Reader's Digest tour of our booth.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys were showing quite a few products. I did see one. I was watching a video that you guys had from your booth at ISE this year, and I saw a short throw. It was like a short throw projector system that had kind of an amplifier and a couple of speakers. And I was curious if you could touch on that. What some of the applications for that piece are. I was intrigued about it.
Absolutely. So our focus and our target was education. So as technology comes into the classroom more and more, the short throw projector became more relevant because, it was easier to install. You didn't have to run wires across a plenum ceiling and get all involved in the plenum. You can install everything on the front wall, and installation time is greatly reduced. And if you're doing, 10, 20, 30, 100, 200 classrooms, that really adds up, and it allows people to put a little bit more profit in their pocket from an integration standpoint. But from a classroom standpoint, It integrates the HD flow, so you're able to get signal from anybody's computer in the classroom up to the screen wirelessly, which is cool. And there is also an integrated amplifier in there with 2 speakers that are built in that has the capability to plug a wireless mic in, so a teacher can have a lapel mic or a wireless, like handheld mic, walk around the classroom and talk. That audio fills the classroom, and it's very, very cool. It's all kind of in one solution, and the guys that are really getting good at installing this can install this start to finish in 30 minutes per classroom. So it's a huge labor-saving advantage, and it puts all this technology right there at their fingertips. So it's used a lot in education, and then once in a while it's a boardroom application, but the bulk of the business is EDU.
Wow, cool. So I think it's safe to say, Peerless-AV is no longer just a mounting solution company. If you had that idea in your head, I feel like I've been drinking from a fire hose for the last couple minutes here. We've got the Pico Broadcaster, digital menu boards, 2,000 nit optically bonded displays, video conferencing carts, and that's not even everything. There's more to it there. So I think this was a really good recap for anyone that just wasn't at Infocomm or was curious about what Peerless-AV had in their booth this year, what they were showing off. And Hal, we just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to chat with us, and we think this was some valuable information that our audience will look forward to hearing.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. I'm obviously passionate about this. You guys are passionate about this, so it's very enjoyable for me to talk shop with people that have an interest.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's what it's all about.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. No, we appreciate you coming on the show. One thing we do like to ask our guests that come on the show, because we think it's interesting to learn about people in our industry and sort of what they're into. So when you're not busy managing and directing it at Peerless, what are some of the things that make you tick? You got any hobbies or anything kind of fun or interesting that you like to get into on your free time?
Well, so I like to travel, of course, not for business, but for pleasure. But in general, I'm kind of social, so what we do on an everyday or every week basis, we go to local little festivals. I like to listen to local music. I really love local live music,
Nice.
And then Peerless it's kind of got a family feel to it. So we just went to this big food truck festival, and that was kind of cool. A bunch of Peerless people went, and that was neat. And then I live with an artist, so we go to a lot of art shows and gallery events. And then the last thing I do as a hobby, I guess, is I'm kind of an avid bowler. Before I got into AV, I bowled for a living, right? I was on the professional bowlers tour, so I still bowl recreationally, and I like that, So that's kind of me, just kind of a social guy. I like to hang out with my friends and go to music for the most part.
Awesome, all good stuff. So thanks again for joining us. For our listeners who may want to connect with you, possibly if they have any questions about some of the products that you talked about or just general inquiries, what would be the best way for our audience to reach out to you?
Well, so if they want to contact me, they're welcome to email me anytime. It's htruax. It's at peerless-av.com. And if they wanted a little more insight into what I think day to day, I've got a blog at Peerless is now. This is tough. Probably tougher for me to read than it is for people to understand. But blog.peerless.com/author/Hal-Truax, and then the last one is I blog for Rave at the www.ravepubs.com/author/Hal Truax, or H Truax, excuse me. And then at Twitter, it's easy. I'm just at Hal Truax, so you can read my tweets and so forth.
Awesome. We'll be sure to put all that information in the show notes there, so anybody listening to this can go to avshoptalk.com and get access to that information in case you didn't get it all.
Well, this is terrific. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity. It's very enjoyable for me.
All right. Great, Hal. Well, thank you so much. We will let you go.
All right. Take care. Have a great night.
Thanks, Hal. Okay, that wraps this episode of AV Shop Talk up. Really great to be talking with Hal and somebody from Peerless-AV. And, Infocomm was, I'm still getting my head around it's still sinking in, Infocomm.
Right.
Just everything that I saw. But one of the things that I thought was really cool was the hashtag that was going around this year, the hashtag AV selfie.
But first, let me take an AV selfie.
Oh, yeah. It was a big deal. That was a great idea. Clever. I was keeping an eye on that. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this is my first year at Infocomm, but things like that with the social media and AV selfie, you can just kind of scroll through on Twitter and see kind of what's going on, where people are, what people are doing. And you kind of get to know some of these people just through social media. And then you come out to Infocomm, like me, for the first time, and you feel like you kind of know everybody, or at least the people that are active on Twitter. So it's like there's this whole community that's kind of thriving there. And I know a lot of people, aren't involved in social media, and definitely the whole industry's not represented there. It's just a small fragment of it.
Of course.
But I thought it was pretty cool to, have that connection before I even got there.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I frankly I wish more people in our industry were involved in social media, and I think it's great that you can go to a trade show and kind of straight away feel like some people there and have some connections and some common ground. And I was very envious. I saw you guys had a little mini kind of spontaneous tweet up one night. It looked like there was maybe 12 or 15 of you there, having some beers together.
Yeah, it all stemmed from a little actually an AV selfie with Josh Schrago, and one thing led to another, and then Mark Coxon was tweeting about it, and then we said let's meet up for dinner, and before you know it, we're with AVI Kelly, and some of the Vadio girls were there, and because Kelly was friends with all them, and we had Tim Albright shows up with Chris Neto, and it was cool. We were just hanging out getting some Mexican food on the strip.
Yeah, very nice. I saw the pictures and I was envious. So I'm hoping for next year. I'm working in the residential side. For me, Cedia is a little bit easier of a sell in terms of spending the time and the resources to get out there and spend a week away from projects. But there's always a lot of really cool products that I see at Infocomm, and although I do think it's pretty much a commercial show, I think a guy like me who works in residential could still take a lot away from it, and wouldn't hurt to come out and have a beer with you guys either. So
definitely,
hopefully next year.
Yeah, definitely hope you can make it out next year. So if you guys feel like you want to contribute to the conversation or chime in, or something we said struck a chord with you, feel free to leave us a voicemail. You can do that by going to our website. If you go to avshoptalk.com/speakpipe, you can leave us a 90-second voicemail that we may include in an upcoming episode.
Yeah, SpeakPipe is a really a cool tool, and it's a great opportunity for people to call in and have yourself featured on the show for a few seconds. Let us know how we're doing. If, like Nate said, if something struck a chord, or maybe you want to even correct us on something, or make a suggestion, ask a question, whatever it is, just go to avshoptalk.com/speakpipe. Also, while you're there, of course, leave us a comment. Love to know how we're doing, and also hear some suggestions if you have ideas for topics that you'd like to hear covered on the show.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. Stay tuned for the next episode. The AV Shop Talk podcast is produced independently by Jason Griffin and myself, Nate Schneider. Musical contributions, as always, coming from Colin Owens. With a special twist this week, we featured the AV Selfie song by Hi-Fi Phil Cordell. Check out the music video on YouTube. Just look up AV Selfie. Voiceover work from John Perry.
This is where the AV pros come to talk shop.
Roger that.
AV Shop Talk.